Since it's Autism Awareness Month, I wanted to make sure that I gave you some incredible books by autistic authors or books that show really great autistic representation. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains mature content intended for adult audiences only. Hey friends, it's Alicia. I'm very excited about this episode, and I almost didn't do it just simply because time got away from me. But I think that it's such an important topic that I absolutely had to do it. Before we get into this episode, I want to do a little bit of story time. In 2021, it might have been, if I'm trying to remember correctly, but it was around that time, maybe about a year into the pandemic. My kiddo got diagnosed with autism. And one thing that I did was I started researching and reading a lot of books around autism. Now, my kiddo is low needs autistic. Previously, that was called high functioning autistic. My husband and I were listening to the audiobook of A Parent's Guide to High Functioning Autism. That is the title of the book. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I actually never finished it because at the time I got maybe 2 chapters in and got really frustrated. And the reason I got frustrated was because in the first chapter, he shares these different stories of kids who are low needs autistic and the things that they do that are so different than other kids. One of the stories felt like a reflection, like a mirror to myself, and a story that I've heard about myself from when I was little. And in this story, it was about a little boy who his mother had fallen and hurt herself, not terribly, just maybe bumped her elbow and kind of cried out. He walks into the room where she got hurt, looks her over, turns around, and walks away. Ever since I was little, my mom would tell me this story about how my babysitter was changing a light bulb in the kitchen and she fell off of the bench or the stool that she was standing on and hurt herself. I walked in, looked at her, turned around, and walked away. I don't know about you, but those sound like very similar stories. And over the course of my life and in getting my kiddo's diagnosis and doing this research and understanding more about who I am as a person, I was able to see more and more this experience reflected back to me. So I am not diagnosed, but in my research and in my findings, I'm fairly certain that I am somewhere on the autism spectrum. Now, that looks different from everyone. A friend of mine, she has this incredible quote that she heard from a friend that I love, and it's that when you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Because everyone's experience of autism, every autistic individual is so unique, and their experience is so unique, and their varying needs or hyperfixations or the way that they process things are all so unique that you've only met one. You cannot categorize all of them together. So I'm excited to get into this. I honestly, every time that I read a story with an autistic female main character, I feel so incredibly seen and validated and like, wow, my experience matters. So this is such an important and powerful episode for me to share. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the very first book that I read that had this representation. Now, I read this back in 2022, and it is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. And this is one that typically gets mentioned because the autism is very clear. But I remember reading this and just thinking, oh my goodness, I feel so seen by this. This one has sex work. It is an Asian author, Asian main characters. There's an autistic woman who wants to learn about sex, hires a sex worker. There's a little bit of that teach me energy. And I'm fairly certain that almost, I want to say every book in that series, the Kiss Quotient series, does have autistic representation. In the second book, which is The Bride Test, that one I also read in 2022. That one, the male main character has autism. And that one is really interesting. There's a marriage of convenience, kind of arranged marriage. This one is also a fake relationship because they have to pretend for legal reasons that they are married. And this one is very interesting. And I absolutely loved this one as well. The next one is Always Only You, which is the second Chloe Leese, if I'm saying her last name correctly, in the Bergman Brothers series. This one is a hockey romance. There is autism and visible chronic illness where she walks with a cane. It's a he falls first, grumpy sunshine. I want to say this was one of the first books that I read. Maybe not the first, but definitely one of the beginning-ish books that I read where the female main character was grumpy. And that felt so fun to read. And just, yeah, I definitely felt really seen by that one. It's nice and spicy. There's a virgin hero as well. Definitely a good one. Next on my list is The Hunger Duet by Avita Weiss. That is coworkers. There's BDSM. The female main character is autistic. There's some monster stuff, tentacles, some sex work. It is an urban fantasy romance. This one is definitely a 5 spice. And there is also disability rep. So this one was really spicy if you're looking for something spicy. Less than, I want to say, 250 pages between the duet. And it is a really enjoyable read. Next is From the Start by Katie Duggan. And we will be having Katie on the podcast in the near future. This one, the female main character is autistic. And I believe in her second book in this series, the female main character is ADHD. So she has a lot of that representation in her books. There's also disability rep in this book. It's an enemies to lovers. They grew up together and were, it's kind of a one-sided hate enemies to lovers. You guys know, I love that. I love when one person is like, I hate you so much. And the other person's like, I'm just happy to be here. So this one also has a bit of a sex agreement where the female main character hears that the male main character is good at sex, propositions him, as one does. And yeah, this one is really good. There's toy play, bit of teach me. Obviously, I have a thing for teach me romances. So this one is very good. Definitely go check that out. Another one that I read in the Bergman Brothers series, the 6th one in the series, If Only You. And in this one, it is a soccer player and a hockey player, kind of teammates, sister. We have a lot of queer rep here, bisexual main character and a pansexual main character. And this one's a bit of friends to lovers. There is disability rep as well with celiac disease. And I really liked this one. The audiobook was fantastic for that one. And I'm trying to remember who of the main characters was autistic. I want to say it was the female main character in that one as well, but I don't remember exactly. Next is Chaos, which is the second in the Young Decay series by Jack Whitney. The author as well is ADHD. This one is darker. There is some self-harm discussions. It is a rockstar romance, fake dating, disability rep as well. The female main character in this one has autism and she is a celebrity. He is a rock star. It's a grumpy sunshine where she's grumpy as well. But just be aware there's some stalker, darker themes to this, not between the main characters, but outside of the main characters. And so this one is very good as well. Another one is Rebecca Weatherspoon. The one that I read was Megan. And what I loved about this one is that there is a dom-sub relationship, a sex club. The audiobook's fantastic. She is a teacher, he is a millionaire, and we love to see it. Teachers deserve love too. But also the pleasure dom aspect was really fantastic. And I'm also trying to remember who was autistic in this one. I have it on my tags. I believe it was the female main character that was autistic in this one. And then I would, of course, be remiss if I did not mention Talia Hibbert, who has quite a few books that are autistic representation. The first one is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. The second one is A Girl Like Her, which is part of the Ravenwoods series. And in this one, the female main character is autistic. It is Grumpy Sunshine, Neighbors to Lovers, and I've heard really good things about that one as well. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention some of the other ones that are on my TBR, like What If I Love You by Yvonne Marie. That one is a childhood friends. There is Disability Rep, Rivals to Lovers, Second Chance Romance. I'm also fairly certain that Lake Bloom by Maisie Endings is also on the list there. There's also a Penny Reed one. I cannot off the top of my head. I know that she has one though. All in all, there are so many different romances, especially if you're looking for a broader spectrum of neurodivergence than just autism. But since it is Autism Acceptance Month, I did want to make sure that we highlight these. I want to know, send me a DM, let me know that you listened to this episode and what books that have autism rep were your favorites or ones that you have found that shared representation that allowed you to see folks with autism in a new or different light. All right, until next time, happy reading.